Back with another check-in with our good friend from All City NBA Podcast and ESPN, Tim Legler. Tim, good to see you as always, man.
Good to see you guys, man. Big time of year right now, right? Everything, all the stakes are raised. Everything feels a little bit more heightened right now.
Yeah, so and exactly where I wanted to start with you, just because of where they are and how the Eastern Conference is so bunched up as far as down by 5 on down, especially with the teams behind the Sixers in the play-in really surging, and they're going through their injuries and trying to stay afloat with these final 20 games, just under 20 games now for the season. And when you're a player and you see the injuries hit you the way that the Sixers have had to deal with both Embiid, illness with Kelly Oubre, scary fall for VJ Edgecombe. Hopefully it's not anything too bad for him. But how do you try to maintain and keep your head when it's Tyrese Maxey and, with all due respect, everyone else, and just trying to stay and hold off those other teams?
It's tough. I mean, it's, when you're going through this situation, and I recall being on teams when I was in the league that, you go through stretches like this, it is very difficult. And you're hoping you could hang your hat on a different way to win. Like if you could just win games defensively, with your toughness on the glass, like just competing, because you're just not going to have consistent offensive performances. It's very difficult to go through it. Now, the light at the end of the tunnel is, you expect guys to come back, right? The cavalry is going to come, and you're going to ease some of this burden on Tyrese Maxey, because I'm very worried right now about his burden, and just he looks a little bit worn down, and the shots he has to take, the amount of offense he has to create, you can just see it in his efficiency. He's a very efficient player for a guard his size that takes a lot of jump shots. There aren't a lot of guys historically that have been Tyrese Maxey's size that shoot as many perimeter shots as he does, that have efficiency numbers like him. Like he's always in that, just under the 50% mark, typically from the field. He's in that 40% range from three. If you look at his efficiency here, basically since the beginning of February, these aren't typical Tyrese Maxey shooting nights. And the reason for it is there's just too much on his plate. He's got to set the table and take a ton of shots, highest usage on the team. He's getting, the top of the whiteboard treatment on every opposing locker room. So the amount of contact he sees off ball screens, the amount of traffic he has to navigate, how deep he has to shoot the ball to get shots, because they're not going to score if he's not hunting them. His efficiency numbers are, to me, the greatest indicator of what this team has faced with these injuries, because it's just too much for a guard his size to carry this kind of burden night in, night out, without some of the reinforcements coming back offensively. So that, to me, is what has to change, because I'm just a little bit concerned about how worn down he looks to me right now.
So, Tim, where would you go to try to make his life easier, even if it's as simple as you got to try to play him less minutes and just live with whatever the results are without him on the floor, or maybe some plays or actions that you could, like, what's the vision here to try to make life easier on him?
Problem they have is they don't, without Paul George, like, consistently being that guy that can be, your second half court decision maker, ball handler, ball screen operator, a guy that you can put it in his hands and trust him to make great decisions. Obviously, if Embiid's playing, he's going to touch the ball a lot at the top of the key. It just takes it out of Maxey's hands more. It's just less of a grind. It's difficult. They don't necessarily have the personnel to be able to do it if those guys aren't playing. It's hard. Like, how are you going to really get any sort of push up the floor early if he doesn't have the ball? How are you going to initially in your first action really do something that the defenses react to on your initial action if it's not him? Now you can get it up the floor, get it to some secondary guys' hands, go put Maxey off the ball a little bit, have him come back and get it later in the possession just to save 10 seconds of running around and dribbling against, a lot of contact. You can do that, but now you're getting deeper into possessions where you're still probably going to end up with shots that aren't great. And so there is no great answer. The answer is get your best guys on the floor and available to play. And that's the answer. Now, in the meantime, to your first part of that question, would you play him less minutes and risk potentially maybe you sacrifice a little bit in terms of like winning and losing? Maybe, because I don't think it's sustainable to ask this guy to play this way. Now, it's, he's hopefully not going to have to when they get help back, but it's not like all of a sudden then, he just feels refreshed. I mean, this is taking a toll on him that is going to, I think, last here as we get deep into the season. All these games become more meaningful. And I know, like you said right at the start, there are teams now that are red hot 7 through 10. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Now you look down there, you look at the Eastern Conference standings, and like all those teams that are trying to, play their way up into the 7-8, or in some cases, like a team like Charlotte, they've absolutely got their eye on the 6. Let's get out of the play-in altogether. So you got these teams red hot, on fire, feeling good about themselves, while you got the Sixers sort of leaking oil. And now with their best offensive player starting to feel the effects of that, it's not a great situation to be in at this time of the year.
I guess on the other end, Nick Nurse has always had defenses where he's trying to show the ball handler crowd, trying to force turnovers, trying to get out in transition, and in doing so, frequently giving up a little more threes than you would typically want, especially in the corners. How do you think they're playing defensively, and do you think they're finding the right balance of being aggressive while not giving up kind of shots you don't want to go up?
Yeah, look, I think their defense for me has been kind of up and down. It's a little inconsistent. I think that there are nights it seems like, and you can kind of tell the indicators earlier in the game, it's like they don't have it tonight. So this is going to be one of those nights. It's not like they're going to find it at some point. But when they come out like energized, they have a good start to the game offensively. They're forcing teams to take the ball out of the net a little bit more so they can set up a half-court defense and get 5 sets of shoulders facing half-court, as I like to call it. When you get that, they've been better early in games. It's when they've kind of come out and been slogging through it offensively early, they get some runouts, they get some numbers against them where they give up easy shots. That's when you kind of feel them let go of the rope a little bit defensively. So it's been inconsistent at times. It's been pretty good. I think they've got some guys that have really competed for them, particularly some of their role players. But again, man, it just comes down to numbers and health and your top guys not being there, because the two guys, Paul George and Embiid, I know that didn't look the same beginning of the year defensively, but he was starting to come around a little bit. I thought getting some lift back and some effectiveness. Paul George, I thought, was their best defender without his injuries. He's been their best perimeter defender, I think, by a wide margin. So it's not just the offensive indicators and what it does for Maxey. It's defensively you're missing key guys, man. So I feel like we talk about this theme all the time with the Sixers, health, and just having guys out there and being available. And they're just trying to figure out a way to fight their way through and bide time. That's really what they're doing. And they're not the only team in this boat. There's other teams that are similarly facing key guys out. You're biding time, get guys back, and then you hope you can establish a rhythm before you start playing super meaningful games over the last couple of weeks of the regular season into the playoffs.
Tim, as we talk about that, there's something that has been annoying us all season long with this team. You've seen them a lot, so you've seen this trend. In the beginning of the season, it was just a trend, an annoying one. Now we're 60-plus games into the year, and it's still occurring. And that's the third quarter. I don't know how they come out of the locker room and have the issues that they do. We watch a lot of basketball, but we don't necessarily know the trends of other teams to know if they're dealing with similar things outside of us just looking at some stats. What do you see when you see that the issues that the Sixers have in the third quarter, where they either have a lead and it's taken away, and they have to have their strongest fourth quarter in the NBA because of what they give up in the third? We can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's it's real. It's not like imagine it. The numbers dictate it. The analytics point to it. I'm sure Nick Nurse has addressed it many times. It's really just a collective psyche and a mindset now at this point. You got to reverse that. They come out in the third quarter and it's almost like they're just in such a relaxed mode, almost like you would be in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game some nights, which is typical for a lot of teams. First 4 or 5 minutes of any NBA game, it's like, it's one of those situations. Everybody's going to get a touch. Everybody's going to get one shot up. And it's like, okay, we're 6 minutes into the game. Okay, you guys ready to play? Everybody good? It's almost like both teams. Like you dap it up, like, okay, everybody touch the ball. We're good. Let's play. So those first 5, 6 minutes, a lot of times are just guys trying to get themselves a little bit of a sweat going, get a touch of the ball, and then play. Start of the third quarter is not supposed to be like that. You've already had a half to play. You go in, you recharge, you come out. But I feel like the Sixers have a problem getting going. They play a little bit too slow. They come out. It looks similarly to how it did at the start of the game, and that can't happen. And because other teams, I think, for the most part, you come out of the locker room, you got half a game under your belt. Like you feel like there's especially now, teams sense that. Because as much as the Sixers might talk about it in their own locker room, I guarantee you it's also being talked about in the other locker room. No, these guys are going to let us back in it. Like That's the conversations that are being had at halftime. Or if you got an 8-point lead against them, like teams are saying, hey, this is an opportunity to put them away right now in the first 6-7 minutes. They come out slow in the third quarter. So this has become a narrative, not just that the Sixers coaching staff's talking about, so is the other locker room. And so now this becomes this thing. And it's really, I mean, there's no other great answer for it other than collective psyche and understanding the state of readiness you have to have when that third quarter begins. So whatever their routine has been individually, guys need to look at that a little bit, man. You need to have a situation where guys look each other in the eye. It's not coming from the coaches. They're not going to be able to get you to come out and play as hard as you need to in the third quarter. This is something that internally the players need to get a grip on, and they need to have these talks and take it more seriously and come out and collectively show the other team they're ready to go at the start of the third quarter so that they don't have these situations where a 6-point lead becomes an 8-point deficit like in a short period of time, because we've seen that out of the Sixers.
Tim, you mentioned needed to have better offensive games, and that way you get back into your half-court defense more, and the type of effect that have on this team. Transition defense remains a huge problem, along with rebounding for this group. I think rebounding we look at and we say, look, they play a lot of 3-guard lineups. They play small. Joel hasn't moved as well. So that you can at least understand that. What do you see going wrong in transition for these guys? And what do you think are normally the marks of a bad transition defense team, other than, they just don't get back? Like, what did they do wrong?
Well, it's for me, and it's any team. And it's funny because I'm going to be talking about the Lakers today on the All City podcast and looking at them last night. And your first 2 strides, 3 strides defensively across the board. You look at the teams that are great transition defensive teams, and I just called Oklahoma City and the Knicks the other night at the Garden. And watching Oklahoma City, their commitment to getting 5 guys first 2 strides in a dead sprint, because that's really all you're talking about. At that point, that initial surge defensively, head down, sprinter speed, first 2 strides to take you closer to half court, it's over. The game's won. Like, that possession is not the game, but that possession is won, because now you have taken away opportunities for wings to get ahead of the pack, for the early throw ahead, for guys to flare out for open threes. It's just that initial push. And so if you take a look at games when the Sixers have struggled to get back and they're getting the ball thrown ahead on them and they're getting dribble penetration where they get numbers quickly, take a look, freeze the frame when the ball is secured by the other team off their own defensive glass. Take a look at first 2-3 strides across the board. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 guys. That's not good enough. It's got to be at least 3 or 4. The great teams, it's 5 guys. First 2 strides are a dead sprint. Sixers, when they struggle to get back defensively, if you just freeze it and take a look at it, you're going to see they're not getting at least 3 of those guys doing it. It's a 1 or 2. That's not enough in this league. With the spacing and the speed and the number of shot makers in early offense, it's just not enough. So for me, it really does just typically come down to effort and your initial concentration when they secure the defensive rebound, your immediate reaction to turn and sprint rather than jog a step or 2 or look at the ball or whatever it may be. You've got to turn, nothing else on your mind. Try to get yourself as quickly as you can up somewhere between the 3-point line and the half-court line in the backcourt. If you get there ahead of the ball, you've pretty much ended a team's opportunity to get numbers.
I remember a while back talking about Jared and how it would take him to, it might be up and down a little bit. It might take him a couple of months to find his footing. It seems like he's found his footing exactly when the Sixers traded for him. What would you say or traded him? What would you say the biggest reason that he is looking better in OKC? And I guess your overall thoughts on what's going on with the trade.
Well, look, first of all, I just felt like all along, I mean, he showed enough last year to know what kind of a scorer he is and the intensity with which he plays offensively. He's just got a natural, intense energy about him offensively that creates good opportunities for himself. So I saw enough of that last year. The knee injury came, and this year I expected exactly what I saw. He was going to struggle, and it could have been the rest of the year struggle, and it's okay. Get your feet wet, get confident playing in traffic, play psychologically through the injury, then get yourself an offseason, and then come back next year at the start of the year and look exactly like the guy that went down with the injury. They just didn't give him that time. They didn't give him that time. And Oklahoma City, when that trade went down, we did a game in Oklahoma City like that day. the trade was announced that night. We had OKC San Antonio, and we were sitting in there, and we were talking with Mark Daigneault, and the trade had been made. He couldn't really comment on it because it hadn't been finalized yet. He said, I can't really talk about the trade, but you could tell. I could just tell by the look in his eye. Like, he felt like we got one. And Sam Presti is amazing at locating these opportunities. The reason he's played so well at Oklahoma City, number one, he's just further along in the process of coming back from an injury. So just mentally, he's in a better place. He also feels very valued for what he does there, and they're letting him play free. Now, defensively, I think the way that it's been framed with him there is he's an okay defender. He will eventually, they can turn him into a great half-court defender because of what their culture is defensively. And the support that you have, even if you're not one of their better defenders, the support around you defensively in that team is incredible. It makes you a better defender. So I don't know what's going to happen when they get to the postseason. And this guy, Mark Daigneault, has like 13 guys that deserve playing time. I don't know how that's going to play out for Jared McCain when you get into the postseason. And when you got Cason Wallace and you got Wiggins and you got Dort and you got Caruso and you got Shea and you got all these Isaiah Joe, all these guys that are going to play. I don't know how that's going to play out, but they believe they've got a guy now that's going to be a part of their future going forward. And really, to me, the biggest reason he looks good there and he didn't Philly is just more time to get more comfortable with that knee. That's really what it is. And you can see it, man. He's not really hesitating anymore. He's playing a little bit more reckless abandon than what we saw before he got the injury. So this is no surprise to me. I don't know how it's going to play out in the playoffs for him. They're just so deep at the guard position. I don't know. But I do know this. If they have a night where they're struggling to score in a playoff series and they put Jared McCain in, he's one of those guys that can get you a 10-point quarter and turn a game because his offensive ability is that strong. He has the ability to give them some firepower on a night when maybe they're struggling a little bit to shoot. Jared McCain can answer that. So he'll have moments in the postseason. I just don't know if he'll be a regular part of the rotation yet.
Still a month later from the trade, and Sixer fans are not happy as things that turned.
They're not going to be letting go of this one for a long time.
I didn't like it either for the Sixers. When I heard that news, I just felt like, wow, that's amazing. Like it basically gets less than half a year. I know they weren't winning games, but it was obvious he had something. He had a spark. The guy can flat out score, and he goes down, and you're like, man, that was not a lot of time to let him play through that and find his comfort zone. And I think the Oklahoma City Thunder got themselves a really good player that's going to be a part of their future. Because remember, something else about this deal for them, they're not going to be able to re-sign all of those role players that they won a championship with. They're just not. And that's part of this is the security and the basically the insurance policy for that. Some of those guys will cash in when they become free agents because they have a name now as part of a champion. You can now parlay that into more money somewhere else than they can pay you. And so now here's Jared McCain on a rookie deal. He's a guy that now you can plug in and replace some of those minutes if you lose one of those guys that's played big minutes for you. That was a big part of why they acquired him. Financially, they just gave almost $1 billion to their top three players in guaranteed money. Those other guys are going to have to sacrifice, and some of them are going to go and cash in somewhere else. So now here you go. You plug in Jared McCain on a rookie deal, and you don't miss a beat.
Well, Legs, you got a good one this weekend with Jason Tatum returning. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics on Sunday on ABC. That will be a fun one.
Can't wait. Cannot wait to see Tatum. And that's Cleveland has been interesting since the Harden trade and a couple other guys, Schroeder and Keon Ellis. I just think their team, to me, is more of a legitimate threat this year than they have been the last two, even though the record won't be as good this year. I just think their team, that they have something about them. And, of course, the Celtics have been one of the best stories in the league, and now you inject one of the best players in the league into this equation down the stretch. That's going to be a fascinating game on Sunday for us.
Well, Sixers have the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland on Monday, so we'll see them there and see how the Sixers fare against them. Tim, as always, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. Everybody, make sure you tune into the All City NBA podcast, Tim Legler and Adam Morris, and on Sunday, certainly, and all season long. Continue to watch Tim on ESPN. Thanks as always, man.
Thanks a lot, guys.